In Plato's cave, people watch shadows on a wall and mistake them for truth. They've never seen the real world, only its distorted reflection. Today, we live in a similar cave. Surrounded by endless information, we often cling to illusions, what feels true, not what is true. The illusion of knowledge begins when we stop questioning the shadows. One day, a person dares to turn their head. What they see isn't what they expected. The shadows weren't reality, they were only projections. Doubt is born not from weakness, but from the courage to question. This first act of turning away is the beginning of all wisdom. To doubt is not to betray knowledge, but to seek something deeper than comfort. Leaving the cave isn't easy. Every step toward the light feels painful, uncertain, even dangerous. The world outside challenges everything you once believed. But real knowledge isn't found in certainty. It's found in the willingness to endure discomfort. The climb toward truth is never smooth, but it's the only path worth taking. When you finally step into the light, the truth can be overwhelming. It doesn't feel satisfying, it feels disorienting. Certainty crumbles, familiar stories dissolve, but with time, the eyes adjust. You begin to see not what you want to believe, but what actually is. Real knowledge starts not with answers, but with the death of illusion. Truth isn't meant to be kept alone. When you return to those still trapped, you realize something heartbreaking. They don't want to leave. They mock your doubt, reject your questions, and cling tighter to their shadows. The illusion of knowledge is comforting because it asks nothing of us. But truth demands change, and that's what makes it so difficult to accept. The most powerful chains are the ones we don't notice. They're not forged of iron, but of comfort, routine, and the fear of being wrong. People will reject the truth not because they can't see it, but because they don't want to. It's easier to believe the familiar lie than face the frightening unknown. Those who speak with certainty are often the most convincing, regardless of whether they're right. We mistake confidence for wisdom, volume for truth, and so we follow the loudest voices, not the wisest ones. The illusion of knowledge thrives where doubt is silenced and simplicity is sold as certainty. Truth is complex. It doesn't come in slogans or headlines. But complexity scares us. It takes time, patience, humility. In a world addicted to speed and simplicity, we prefer comforting lies over inconvenient truths. We reject nuance, not because it's wrong, but because it makes us think too hard. We don't just stumble into illusions, we buy them. From politicians to influencers, there's a market for belief. And we, the buyers, are eager to purchase what flatters us, confirms us, soothes us. Real truth doesn't sell well. It challenges, disturbs, demands, but the illusion? That always finds a buyer. When everyone around you agrees, it feels like truth. But agreement isn't proof, it's often just an echo. The more we insulate ourselves from difference, the more certain we become of our illusions. Truth doesn't grow in silence. It needs friction. It needs challenge. Without it, we lose not only truth, but the ability to even recognize it. Every great transformation begins not with knowledge, but with doubt. Doubt is a quiet rebellion against the illusion of certainty. It whispers in moments when the crowd chants in unison, when everyone seems sure except you. What if they're wrong? Or worse, what if I'm wrong? That moment, when you allow space for uncertainty, is when the illusion begins to crack. Socrates called it wisdom. In a world obsessed with being right, daring to be uncertain is a radical act. It doesn't feel heroic. It feels lonely, frightening, like walking away from warmth into shadow. But this is how truth begins, not with answers, but with the courage to ask. Unlearning is a kind of death. You climb upward, away from the familiar, toward something you can't yet see, only sense. Each step away from illusion feels like betrayal of your family, your teachers, your past self. You start to realize that knowledge isn't just the accumulation of facts, but the courage to discard what no longer holds. The climb is steep, and there are no guarantees. The people below shout for you to return, not because they hate you, but because your doubt threatens their certainty. And yet, something inside pulls you forward, not pride, but a longing to understand what lies beyond the cave's mouth. Truth, at first, is not beautiful. It is harsh. It is painful. It contradicts what you once believed with all your heart. It overwhelms your senses, exposes your ignorance, and humiliates your certainty. The light is too much. Many who make it this far turn back, not because they lack intelligence, but because truth demands something that illusion never did: transformation. To see things as they are means you can never unsee them. You realize how much of your life was lived in shadows. And the most terrifying thought of all, everyone you love still lives there, and they don't know it. There is a strange sadness in truth. You expected liberation, but what you feel first is grief. Grief for the years spent believing lies. Grief for the comfort that no longer fits. See how the world works, its chaos, its contradictions, and there's no going back. Wisdom is not the absence of pain, but the presence of awareness. To know is to carry the weight of seeing clearly when others still dream. And yet, it's not a burden you carry with pride. It's a responsibility. For once you know the truth, the question becomes, what will you do with it? The hardest journey is not the climb out, but the return. You step back into the shadows, not because you miss them, but because you remember the people still trapped within. You speak of what you've seen of light, of reality, of the world beyond, but your words sound like madness. They mock you. Some grow angry. Others look away. Plato warned of this in his allegory, that those still in the cave would resist the truth violently. And yet, you return, not because it's easy, but because it matters. Truth, when shared, becomes illumination. And even if only one other soul dares to follow you into the unknown, then the struggle was not in vain. Truth, when spoken in the land of illusion, feels like violence. The others don't just reject what you say, they feel attacked by it. Their anger is not ignorance, but defense. In a world built on certainty, doubt is heresy. And you realize, it's not enough to know. To awaken others, you must first understand their fear. Most chains are not made of iron. They're made of comfort, of routine, of inherited beliefs we never question. People don't cling to lies because they love falsehood. They cling because the truth would demand too much. It's easier to stay seated, eyes fixed forward, and to stand and risk being wrong. It only takes a moment, a single doubt, a strange contradiction, to fracture the illusion. Certainty is brittle, and curiosity is its undoing. The moment someone asks why, the spell begins to break, and the cave, once eternal, starts to tremble. Change never begins with a crowd, it begins with one person who listens, one who dares to walk. And when that first follower steps forward, the impossible becomes thinkable. The cave is no longer a prison, it becomes a choice. To leave the cave is not just to gain knowledge, it is to lose your old self. Everything familiar, everything comfortable must be left behind. That final step isn't about seeing the truth. It's about accepting the cost of freedom. And not everyone is ready, but someone just was. The truth does not welcome you gently. It blinds, it overwhelms. After years in the shadows, the light is not revelation, it is agony. You don't feel wiser, you feel lost. But slowly, painfully, your eyes adjust, and the world reveals itself, not as a place of certainty, but of wonder. Here, there are no puppets, no fire on the wall, only the real, the raw, the complicated. Nature doesn't shout slogans, it whispers patterns. And for the first time, you see not just what is, but what was never true. Reality is not simple, but it's alive. You thought freedom meant answers, but instead, you found questions, millions of them. And with each one, your pride fades. Knowing nothing isn't a weakness, it's the beginning of wisdom. And you finally understand what Socrates meant. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. Truth is a mountain, not a finish line. And the higher you climb, the fewer travelers you find. Each step is made alone. There is no applause, no guarantee. Only the quiet promise that you're walking towards something real and leaving behind something safe. But knowledge brings duty. The one who sees cannot stay silent. So you return to the shadows, the noise, the chains, not to belong, but to speak, to pull even one soul from the cave. And though they may reject you, mock you, fear you, you return anyway. That is the cost of awakening. You speak gently at first, thinking they'll listen, that they want what you've seen. But truth threatens comfort, and comfort, once broken, lashes out. They don't just deny your words, they deny your presence. Because if you're right, everything they know begins to crumble. To them, you are the danger, the liar, the corrupter. They cling to the familiar shadows like sacred truths. They defend illusions not because they're evil, but because they're terrified. And fear turns ordinary people into gatekeepers of ignorance. This is where Socrates stood, not with power, but with questions. Not with violence, but with thought. And the city, the brilliant city of Athens, chose to silence him, not because he lied, but because he wouldn't stop asking what truth really was. In every age, those who ask too much are judged too dangerous. The trial isn't about guilt, it's about conformity. You're not punished for being wrong, you're punished for making others question if they are. And so, truth itself stands trial. The world offers you a choice. Drink the poison, or drink your words. Socrates chose the former, because to betray truth is a slower death. His body failed, but his ideas endured. And now, centuries later, we still whisper his name, not with pity, but with reverence. The Agora never vanished. It simply changed form. From marble steps to comment sections. From face-to-face dialogue to anonymous shouting. The question is no longer, who speaks the truth? But, can truth even be heard through the noise? We are drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. The flood never stops, opinions disguised as facts, noise mistaken for knowledge. And the more you absorb, the less you truly know. Clarity drowns in the tide of updates. The shadows have returned. This time, they're curated just for you. The algorithm doesn't care what's true, it cares what keeps you watching. And so, you're fed exactly what you already believe. Confirmation becomes comfort. Truth becomes irrelevant. Certainty is seductive. You crave it, chase it, worship it. But real understanding isn't certain. It's complex, conditional, evolving. The illusion of knowing is easier to live with than the discomfort of questioning. And so, we accept illusions as real. The Socratic trial returns, but now it's broadcast live. The Quran, asking questions that upset the feed. You're judged not by truth, but by virality. And the sentence? Not death, but silence. Deplatformed, forgotten, replaced by something easier to digest. Every awakening begins with doubt. Not loud rebellion, but a whisper. What if I'm wrong? That single question cracks the armor of certainty. In that moment, something ancient stirs. Socrates lives again in the pause before belief. Rebellion isn't just on the streets. It happens in silence, within. When you stop nodding along. When you resist the urge to share something just because it feels right. The mind that begins to think for itself is already dangerous. The exit is painful. It always is. You leave behind not just illusions, but the people who still believe in them. You are no longer fed, now you must seek. But out here, under the blinding light of uncertainty, something incredible happens. You begin to see. Freedom is heavy. There are no more scripts, no clear villains, no perfect answers. But this weight is sacred. It means you are finally thinking, not reacting, not repeating. You carry the burden of truth, and that makes you free. In the end, knowledge isn't what you hold, it's what you question. And when you dare to look inward, past pride, past certainty, past fear, you meet a real teacher. Not Socrates, not anyone else, but the part of you that dares to ask, why? Thinking is lonely until it isn't. One voice of doubt becomes 2, then 10, then 1,000. Truth spreads not like fire, but like light passed hand to hand by those brave enough to ask uncomfortable questions. Courage, it turns out, is contagious. The revolution doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in classrooms, boardrooms, dining tables. It begins the moment someone stops repeating and starts thinking. The most powerful movements don't chant, they wonder. The battle today isn't fought with swords. It's fought in your feed. Every algorithm screams, feel now, react fast, think less. But to pause, to verify, to reflect, that's rebellion. That's where the new Socratic war is fought. Not in the agora, but online. Truth isn't a possession, it's a discipline, a craft. You shape it slowly, painfully, and sometimes you break it and begin again. The illusion of knowledge is easy. The pursuit of truth is hard, but only one makes you human. Who is the philosopher today? Not the one in robes, but the one who pauses, who chooses to think before they share, to listen before they speak, to wonder before they believe. Philosophy isn't a profession, it's a posture. And now it's your turn. To doubt is not to destroy, but to dare. Doubt is the duty of the thinker. It is the first act of responsibility in a world addicted to certainty. When the slogans are loudest, that's when your silence must break. We don't just fear being wrong, we fear being alone in being wrong. But the mirror of ignorance reflects only consensus, not truth. To question what everyone accepts may look like madness, but it's often the beginning of wisdom. What does a world without questions look like? Silent, controlled, obedient. Where knowledge is replaced by obedience, and curiosity becomes a crime. That is the cost of letting the illusion win. The illusion of knowledge will always tempt us, but so will the flame of doubt, of inquiry, of humility. It's yours now, not to guard, but to share. Because the future isn't written by those who know everything. It's built by those who dare to ask. Socrates doesn't live in statues or textbooks. He lives in every conversation that begins not with a speech, but with a question. What is truth? Asked not once, but again and again across generations. This isn't history, it's inheritance.